Hello, welcome to Good Games Well Played, episode 156. I'm Clint, aka JCM. With us this week is Isley
Yo.
and Messiah.
Hello.
And we don't have too much to go over, but we do have the Fallout TV show to talk about, which we'll get into after we get to these news bits. The first being that apparently Dredge is getting a film adaptation.
What?
Yeah. This is apparently
Yeah,
reported by
I'll
Engadget.
watch a Lovecraftian fishing show, sure, or film, sure.
Yeah, this is a extra report from IGN reported on Engadget, but apparently developer Black Salt Games and media company Story Kitchen, never heard of them, announced a live-action film, but didn't give much away beyond the brief synopsis of "Think the Sixth Sense on the water."
That is not helpful at all.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's
I
gonna be
say. Oh, go ahead.
a murder mystery on the water.
A grounded, atmospheric, cosmic horror blend of H.P. Lovecraft and Ernest Hemingway.
Well, I say, like, what do they have to make? But I guess that game has more story than Iron Lung, and the Markiplier's making a movie out of Iron Lung. So
Yeah. I mean, they've made the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. They made, a Lego. There's been like a Lego movie. Like there's been, movies based on stuff for like how could do this. There's a Battleship movie for God's sakes.
There's content enough in the game to make a movie for sure. I'm surprised more so by the description, because if I had to describe Dredge's story and like the spoilers, I don't think I would ever describe it as The Sixth Sense but on water.
I guess because that's just because there's not many Lovecraftian films out there that are in like the mainstream, I suppose, that like most people would know. So like, okay, let's relate it to something that's kind of similar, but maybe not. And so it's
also,
like
who
that's
is
how you
that
go.
description for? Because the people that are excited about this know what Dredge is about, and
Mhm.
it's like things. So it's like you're comparing it to something that. Just say that it's a film adaptation of Dredge, and we're keeping the same, like, I don't know, themes and feeling, and like you don't need to. I don't know. Comparing it to that makes it seem like it's not going to be good.
There was a movie I think a while back where like Chris Pine was a fisherman, and I was like, I could see it. Like dude goes out fishing. He's trying to. I mean, I didn't play the game, so I'm not sure. Like I know the general idea, but I don't know the exact story of the main character. But like it could be if it's just an adaptation, do something like uh, some northeastern fisherman, has got trying to support his family. Everybody likes to go to like the main spot, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to go. Here's about some other fishing location up near some village, up the coast, and he's like, but no one goes there, but he goes there to get some, get some fish, and it goes well. There's a small little town, and then over time, shit gets weird.
Isn't that
Like
the plot of a Family Guy episode?
I don't know.
He's like a fisherman, and they're like, he's like failing, and they're like, "Don't go here." He's like, "I'm gonna go here," and then they get stranded or something.
I mean, that's typical horror trope right there. It's like don't go where everybody else is going. But I mean, who knows? We'll see how it goes. If they cast someone interesting, it's like a fun little indie horror kind of thing. I guess it could be good, but we'll see. And then the other bit of news is that there's a new DLC sized mod for Starfield that apparently lets you create like entire colonies and mechs and a bunch of other stuff. I was reading about this and I was like, man, it's insane how much stuff the community is doing for Starfield versus just Bethesda.
And they do
But
that
I
shit
get
for free.
yeah. I don't know if this mod is locked behind like a Patreon, because I know a lot of times some huge mods that are not like up on Nexus Mod, they get put behind a Patreon, which is typically fine, especially if someone puts a lot of time into it, and it's a low entry cost to get into to get access to the mod. But yeah, you like just a bunch of stuff you can do, fully constructed buildings that are fabricated and buildable, and it's just like this whole giant piece of mod support. Like I guess because they're focusing on the Fallout 4 London mod that's going to be coming out. That's maybe they got some people helping with that, so they're not doing a bunch of Starfield stuff. And I'm not sure exactly when the DLC for Starfield is supposed to come out. I think it's later this year at some point. But yeah, just some community being the ones to really push, the support for Starfield. So it's nice to see, but still, it's like I guess in this case, it's not.
That's the case for a lot of Bethesda games.
Yeah.
It's always like the community that makes it better over time.
Yeah, at least this one isn't just quality of life mods. Like at the start,
right.
it felt like that's what it was. It was quality of life, big booty, and that was pretty and
Butt
like
sliders.
yeah, and like hot anime lady loading screens. It's like that's kind of what it was. So it's like the quality of life stuff. I'm like, yeah, I can brag on Bethesda for that. But this is like crazy that someone had this big old mod for it already. I'm curious if they're just a veteran of like other Fallout mods, so they're familiar with kind of the base systems and improved workflow from all the experience they have doing other mods for previous Fallout games and whatnot, which would make sense. But so there's that. And then I know we had talked about, I believe last time, about that game content warning, but apparently the game is hiding the player footage in the game for other players to find, kind of like Subnautica when you leave behind the time capsules. And I thought that's so cool. Like to come across, it's kind of like a Death Stranding meets Dark Souls, like a Bloodstained thing where you can like come across just this little DVD and be like, oh, hey, it's another player's little expedition. Let's take it
That
back
is
to the
so.
base
It's
and
like
watch it.
actual found footage. That's so fun.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love it. Like you just load into a, especially if it was treated like what if instead of other players, and maybe I should click on it and read the full article just to confirm my question, but like oh my god, the IGN app is failing right now to load. But I
You
was thinking
continue
like
to use that thing, and yet
it's the best way to like bookmark stuff because I always hate loading. I don't like browsing web pages on my PC when we're doing it. Like back in the day when we used to record, I would use Twinfinite, and because that was like the best page that had the limited amount of ads that would kind of autoplay, especially because like the way I was recording, I didn't want to capture that ad auto ads with their volume and whatnot. But Twinfinite would sometimes uh, open that up in Chrome, and that would eat a little bit of memory. But yeah, let's see. I'm trying to go here. Players of this report by IGN, players of the wacky co-op horror game content warning are being asked by publisher Landfill if their wildest recordings can be used for a lost footage project, which would see it hidden in game for other players to find. Content warning doesn't revolve around looting. Yada yada yada, this and that. Record footage. The resulting reel, including your screams and exclamations and deadpan narration of someone being eaten by a hole in the ceiling, is then available for you to download your PC as a memento, blah, blah, blah. Being picked up and hurled into the air by a horrifying, knobbly slug monster is therefore an ideal turn of events, yada, yada, yada. Okay, stop explaining what the game is. It's asking for players exported camera footage for the lost footage project with the idea that when other players are exploring the ridiculous and terrifying world of content warning, they'll come across an equally ridiculous and terrifying recording and perhaps gain an idea of what lurks nearby. So it sounds like it could be treated as bloodstains, like because you only get the footage if you have one person at least escape. But it would be kind of cool if it was like if you didn't escape, it still makes it, and now that disc is the bloodstain. Like these people didn't survive, and it's footage of how everyone died.
or you find like just the camera, like an extra camera down when you're exploring. You're like, oh my god, I found somebody's footage, and you go and play it. I wonder if it's like submission based, where people can like
It sounds
submit
like it.
their little clips. That would be
Yeah, because
so funny.
the tweet from Landfall Games says, "Come join our lost footage project for the chance to get your cruise footage found by other players in content
Mm.
warning. Link below." So it sounds like it's not built in because I'm sure that would be like a whole EULA agreement thing they have to do. But this is like more of a player submission. But I'm like, man, this would be like if it was just on by default instead of having to make people do it. Like that would be cool. Like because you know what I mean. Like it's a multiplayer game anyways. So, but I guess yeah, if you have, I guess you have that one friend who's a little, a
That
little
one
blue
friend
in
is
their
a little
humor or
racist.
something. Yeah, right. And you're like,
I like them doing it this way better because they can screen what goes into the
yeah,
game.
this is true. This is true. Yeah, but yeah, I was wondering about that too. When I was watching someone play Subnautica, Francis John is playing it, and he came across a bunch of time capsules, and they all have like really well typed out messages to whomever finds their capsule. And obviously, it's because it's on PC, so you have a keyboard. Versus like when I was doing it on PlayStation, I'm like, okay, I gotta fucking click through this virtual keyboard one by one to make a message, and it took forever. But I was like, does anybody vet this? Do they scan for like, words that are unacceptable? Like, what if you just found a time capsule with like the most racist stuff in it? That'd be horrible. But anyway, but yeah, cool idea. I'm hoping to see if it gets implemented soon, and yeah, how it's brought in there, because that'd be cool too if it was like, oh, there's a monster who likes to hoard all the DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a blockbuster monster. It's like, give me all that physical media. But yeah, that'd be cool. Hopefully they can implement that pretty quick. And then the last bit of news was, of course, we had the BAFTAs for video games this week. Baldur's Gate won a bunch of stuff, and a lot of. I guess I could go over the awards. I mean, it's kind of all standard stuff like what you'd expect. Let's see, BAFTA Game Awards winners.
I was actually following like live tweets and stuff of the BAFTAs, just because I didn't have time to like sit down and watch it and all that stuff. So I was just following like the highlights. All of that knowledge got overwritten when I saw Neil's red carpet look. That's all I can think about now. This bitch.
Yeah, I know, right?
This bitch shows up in Alexander McQueen and is like, I'm here now. And I was like, you live in my brain now. Thank you.
Are people still serving cunt? Is that a thing? Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Served, ate, no crumbs, clean the plate. This bitch.
It's interesting. He said, like, he was talking about his fit, like, to an interview on the red carpet. And, like, I guess the shoes he was wearing were the shoes he had when he was, like, a waiter. Like, one of his first jobs when he was, like, on tough times. He's like, yeah, I wear them just kind of a, perspective kind of thing. Like, just wear these old shoes I used to do. I was like, that's, nice. I'm like, okay, whatever, do it. But I can understand personally why you would do it. Like, hey, kind of humble myself and be like, remember where you started.
Yeah, I like that.
I was just dying at that look. It was great.
So
all the fan art of Asterion in it.
The Asterion artists.
Yeah,
they ate well this week.
Yes, they did. So,
ate well.
It lives in my head now. That's all I think about when I hear the BAFTAs.
But yeah, some of the big winners, I'm not going to go every one of them, but like animation went to Hi-Fi Rush, narrative Baldur's Gate, original property went to Viewfinder, which I picked up because it was on sale, actually. I haven't played it yet.
That's a cool game.
Yeah. Music went to Baldur's Gate, technical achievement went to Tears of the Kingdom, and then we have performer and supporting role went to Andrew Wincott, who plays Raphael in Baldur's Gate. That was fun. Him talking about just that experience. It was a fun speech. And then performer in a leading role went to Najee Jeter for Miles Morales, which I was like, because he also won at the Game Awards. So I was like, which right. I was like, oh wow, I mean, nice to see him win, especially when I was thinking about leading role. Like it's, because if you play as Asterion, and Karlach was also nominated. If you play as Asterion and Karlach, like they don't talk a lot if you play them as the MC, but they're supporting characters still. So it's interesting that they tag them as leading role. Like the narrator getting nominated makes sense because narrator does everything. But yeah, it was just interesting. But yeah, him winning, I was like, damn, man. And even he was surprised. But yeah, good to see him.
Considering he won against, a couple Baldur's Gate 3 voice actors who did phenomenal performances. Yeah, and it's funny when I saw him win again this time, I was like, yeah, when I think about it, he is really good in Spider-Man 2. Like, and that I feel like that's people talk about that too, about, Spider-Man 2 didn't really win much at any of the award shows because it's like just a tough year because there's too many good games, right? You can't give them all stuff. I think like
Spider-Man 2 is a great game, but I mean, it was competing against games that were shocking. Like, it was on a scale, it was like a 9 out of 10, but it just had so many games that were kind of like 10 out of 10 in a lot of categories. Maybe not overall, but a lot of categories it was competing against.
It also suffers from that like Sony sequel kind of bias where it's like, because everybody talks about it too. So this isn't like, it's not a conspiracy or thing. It's just like, and we've seen this with like Horizon Forbidden West, where it's like the sequel is great. It does a lot of what the first game. It's a solid game. Like there's nothing wrong with it, but it's like they don't always do too much new. But it's just like, yeah, it's just really, really good. And then it's like I think they won some tech award for because man, playing that game, just flying around that city, I've talked before, it's just so good. But yeah, anyways, when I go back and I think about his performance, I'm like, yeah, he is really good in that game. So it's nice to see him get that recognition. But and then artistic achievement went to Alan Wake 2. Let's see, British game went to Viewfinder. Debut game went to Venba. And then the player voted game of the year was Baldur's Gate, of course. Multiplayer went to Mario Brothers Wonder. Evolving game went to Cyberpunk, which is interesting. I think that one or was
Did you
nominated
say
as
that
one of
was
the games.
evolving game?
Yeah, evolving game.
Involving is not the same as fixing. Best
Yeah,
fixed game? Yeah, sure. But best
Is
evolving game? I don't. What are they evolving?
Yeah, that's
I'm,
a weird one. That feels like a politics one. I guess they
yeah.
did have that big DLC lately, and I never actually went back to it after the huge DLC. Not the one that fixed everything, but the one, well,
The
I
Idris
guess
Elba DLC.
it
Yeah,
did
What is
fix
it?
a lot of shit.
Liberty
Liberty,
something?
Liberty City Stories.
Yeah.
But like I know one of them was
Yeah,
supposed to
Phantom
change
Liberty.
actual gameplay mechanics
Yeah,
more so than
2.0.
just yeah.
Yeah, the game when it came out on when they created the PS5 like standalone version, which is when I got into it finally. Like, that was like 1 point, call it like 1.5. Like that had fixed at that point a lot of the stuff was fixed. Then 2.0 was like a really big overhaul. So outside of it just happened to coincide with Phantom Liberty, but you didn't need Phantom Liberty to get it. So I can understand that from that standpoint like hey, at that point it's like the game was kind of fixed. Now let's kind of change some things and make it a little better. Like a lot of the I believe the skill trees kind of changed, like the way that works. They introduced some other stuff. Like I believe that also introduced cyberpsychosis, which a lot of people had seen in the Edge Runners anime, because it's talked about in the game, but the player can't actually suffer from it. But then now it's like, okay, we kind of added that mechanic in there, so you can't just go hog wild with your upgrades. And then they also did some other changes as well. So I can see from that standpoint, like, okay, but and I guess you can only give it to you know No Man's Sky so many years in a row, I suppose.
Right.
But uh, but yeah, uh, so that was that. And then of course, Game of the Year went to Baldur's Gate 3. But yeah,
Which
someone said like,
no surprise. But it's
yeah,
kind of I guess in a way it's kind of awesome that Baldur's Gate 3 won so much because it really is a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
yes, I saw a tweet like it's the only game to ever win like all the GOTY awards from like the 5 major, like the Golden Joystick, Game Awards, BAFTAs, and then like 2 others. I forget what they were.
Man. So
Um,
IGN had this poll that was like triggering to me, and it was this is sort of related, but like people complaining about what they disliked most about the current generation of consoles. And the top complaint with like 50% of the responses was that we haven't received any true next gen games yet. And I was just like, really? Like Baldur's Gate 3? Really?
Yeah, it's because so many people associate it with like purely graphics, I think.
I know that's why it was so triggering. I was just
Yeah.
like, Baldur's Gate 3 is like an incredible, like once in a lifetime kind of game to have received. And 50% of people are like, oh, we haven't received a single next gen game yet, like a true next gen game. Like, what do
Yeah,
you want?
even like I loved Ratchet and Clank, and I played Ratchet and Clank 2016, which is the reboot of the first one, and like the differences between those two games is huge. And it's just
Right? The like
and I
real time transitioning between universes is done so fluidly. There's no hiccup. It just
yeah,
goes.
it looks phenomenal, and like
Hmm.
this and I don't get why people are like, "Oh, I need exclusives to justify." And I think a lot of this came down to when like the PS4 Pro and Xbox uh, One X came out. Is that people are like, "Oh, who are these consoles for?" And I'm like, "Well, they're for people who want the better performance." And a lot of that early first years for PS5 and the series consoles were kind of like that as well. It's like, yes, there's a lot of games you could still play on uh, PS4 or just and I think everyone you can. I don't. There's not that many Xbox Series exclusives, but it's like yeah, you can play them on PlayStation 4. Sure, you can play Horizon, you can play God of War, Ragnarok, Spider Man, whatnot. Uh, can you play? No, I think Spider Man 2 is an exclusive. But anyways, it's like yeah, the PS5 version is going to play it better. So it's like if that's what you want, I feel like that's totally fine. If you don't, then just don't get it. I don't know why you like. I get it if like oh I need something to justify my purchase, but I feel like I'm all about better performance. Like that was something I loved about the Pro is just playing Battlefield 1 was so much better than playing it on base PS4.
Hmm.
It just loaded better. It stuck closer to 60. It looked better because you had the higher resolution, that checkerboard rendering. And it's just like I mean that's why people you look at like the Steam GPU charts and it's like people are still running older GPUs, but you have those enthusiasts who are running the higher stuff so they can run things at, better looking visuals and frame rates and whatnot. So it's like it's always weird were things like, yes, it would be nice if there was something, that they did that was unique for a particular game, but it's not like, it shouldn't be the defining. Like I always thought it was really like, which, we need that system seller. I'm
Yeah.
like, do you anymore though? Because
I
as
mean,
long as it has backwards compatibility and it plays the old games better, I feel like that's the GPU market, man. It's like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
it just killed me because like watching the Game Awards, I had just finished reading that article on like what people wanted out of next
Hmm.
gen consoles still, and then I watched the Game Awards, and I'm like, any of these games, pick any of these games, and they could explain to you why it's a true next gen game. Even like, honestly, even the remake of Demon Souls, which came out, right at the start, did a lot of really cool things that would not have been possible on PS4.
Yeah.
Like, yes,
I
the base framework of the I know that you had issues with it, but like the base framework of the game, yes, it was still the old Demon Souls, which people wanted. But in terms of like graphics and how they rendered the levels and designed the levels, like wildly different.
yeah. And you know, that's typically what these people are complaining. Like, we want this. It's like, well, you got like Demon Souls looks phenomenal, even at 60. Like, you're losing out on that, high resolution, but it still looks so good because they just nailed the art style in the remake. But yeah, there's Returnal's really good, but that's not everybody's game. Like, could it run on PS4? It's like, yeah, probably. Maybe not hit that 60 target, lower resolution. Um, wouldn't be as maybe vibrant or what have you, but it's just like, yeah, I don't know.
I I
I'm
think
curious
it's
to
really
age.
just the exclusivity. Like I think people, if a game releases on PS4 and PS5 or old Xbox and new, that they view it as like it's not true next gen because it could also be made for PS4, and that's
Yeah,
not always the case.
but again, it's always so weird because I'm like, if the system plays your current games better, like Destiny plays better, Fortnite played better. They eventually got like when
Pretty
they
much
upgrade
everything.
Fortnite.
We had
Yeah,
games that couldn't be made for the old. Like, it wasn't actually just because we were talking about Baldur's Gate. Didn't Larian need to get like permission from Xbox not to release Baldur's Gate on? I think it was even just the Series S or something because they couldn't get it to run on the lower specs.
well, no, it was a split screen. They couldn't do split screen on the Series S
Okay.
because you could do split screen co-op.
Yeah.
So I don't remember if they were resolved that or it was just like release it and you don't have it because they didn't. It was a feature parity thing that Xbox has between their consoles.
Right.
Um,
But then you bring in like, these are the things that you might see in new games that maybe aren't the most obvious for like a true next gen experience, but I mean, go back to PS3 and look at the games we were playing on that. They didn't have a lot of these features. It just the leaps forward in technology are not as obvious now.
it's also like a self-fulfilling prophecy too because you know people are gonna like Microsoft making everything available on all Xbox is like something they started pretty early on. Like you play on this, it'll play on everything. You just buy the game, play it on their consoles. Sony, reversed their decision to be like, okay, these games aren't going to be necessarily exclusive to PS5. We're going to make them for PS4 as well. But it's like that's because the player base of the PS4 was huge. The adoption of PS5 because it came out in 2020 wasn't initially super high. So it's like if the adoption rate isn't really high, there's no real incentive to make something exclusive when it can still look and perform phenomenal on that platform, but be scalable enough to still work on the last gen console. And so the people are like, okay, well, then I'm not going to switch. And it's like, well, then they're not going to make it exclusive because you're going to kind of lose some money, yada yada. So it's like if you all adopted quickly, then you would. But I mean, because I could see having that. Like I have that with like VR. Like it, I would have gotten PSVR 2 much sooner if let's say they did port like Half Life Alyx. Like because that's like a game I really want to play. A lot of the things that came out in PSVR 2 were stuff that had already existed on previous VR units or even the first PSVR that I just weren't like super interested in. Like they're games I'd play when I had the unit, but I was like, for me, because that's different tech, I was looking for that killer app because I'm not going to buy the Valve Index because it's so expensive just to play Half Life Alyx. Plus, at the time, you needed a good PC to play it as well. But yeah, so it's like, but with consoles, I'm like, man, just if you don't want it, don't get it. But yeah, the whole I feel like people need to move away because I'm like, it's not going to be like that going forward. Like there will be PS6 games and that'll launch on both consoles, on PS5 and maybe PS4. I don't know how quickly they'll phase it out, but
we're always going to have like overlapping consoles now.
there's also nothing wrong with scalability. I feel like that people poo-poo that. I'm like, but that's the PC market too. It's like that has to a game on PC has to scale across so many CPU and GPUs.
Mm-hmm.
It's
This
like
is just
you're
like a
gonna
pared down version of that. It only has to work on these two consoles, which are relatively similar. One's just better than the other.
yeah, and it's such a good value add for the customer. It's like, oh, you mean my old console from 2013 can still play these games, sound like a jet engine, but still play them? It's
Mhm.
like, yeah, and then if I want to upgrade or it craps out, I can get the new one and it'll play it better and all my saves and stuff carry over. It's like it's like people I don't know, man. It's like if they whine about not having backwards compatibility in, later in the PS3 and then from PS3 to PS4, then like they keep it, but because they keep it, they also still release those games because they've improved development wise to be able to do that. And you're like, oh well, there's no exclusives now. It's like if that's the only reason you want to buy something, I mean, that's the reason you use when you want to jump ecosystems. Like I'd only go to Xbox if suddenly they had like 20 exclusives that were first party that are on a PlayStation. I'd be like, okay, well, I'd just get them on PC. But you know what I mean? Like if they suddenly had an huge influx of IP that you were interested in that wasn't a third party IP, then make the switch. But yeah, it's weird to have that complaint, but I don't know. Anyway, it's like, but yeah, that like that came off the BAFTA comments. Okay, I was trying to like, how did we get here? It's like, oh, Izzy's
It's
poll.
my frustration with watching BAFTA immediately after reading that article
Yeah,
and just being like, you guys are all wrong. All of you are wrong. Well,
yeah.
half of you are wrong who voted for it, I guess. Not all of you, just half.
There you go. Yeah, they're not too loud. We Izzy commented on them. They're totally fine, so don't worry about it. Yeah, it's ambiance.
They're just
I quietly whispered, birdies.
they're shrieking at each other right now.
Oh, yeah,
so
they're
I had to
losing their
make them
shit.
mute.
I love it.
Yeah.
It sounds nice. It's summer is here. Spring is here.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we get into what we're playing, we'll go ahead and talk about the Fallout TV show, which came out this week. They released it earlier. I believe it came out on Wednesday night. It was supposed to come out, I believe, on Friday. They moved it up like 2 days. It was a dump of just the entire series, not like a weekly release. But I have watched. Thought I was going to finish it last night, but the comedy show I went to went longer than I thought it would, so I didn't watch it. But I have seen through episode 6. There's only 8 episodes total. And Isley, before the call, you said you watched. Maybe it was on the call, but you said you watched 4 episodes.
Yeah, I should make sure if we're going to talk about this episodes.
Okay. And Zaya, have you watched any of it, or are you interested in watching it?
I'll probably watch it eventually, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. So we will, if you want, I'd say you can go ahead and mute, and I'll just let you know when you can unmute, because we're just going to be, I figure if we're going to talk about the show, we might as well just spoil it through episode 4. Let me pull up episode 4 so at least I know.
Yeah, I finished episode 4.
Okay. Yeah, so Zaya, go ahead and go on mute, and then I'll ping you in Discord when we're good. So yeah, we will be talking about in full spoilers for Fallout 4 through episode 4. A little wave emoji. Let me pull up again. I want to just pull up the episode list just so I can make sure I know where we left, where that was. So episode 4 is the ghouls. Okay, that's in the super duper mart. Okay. Yep. All right. So yeah, Fallout. It's funny. I was watching someone like, is this going to be the show that breaks the video game adaptation curse? And I'm like, bruh, you forget about Arcane and Last of Us?
I was going to say, we've had so many.
Sonic
we're actually
movie?
in the phase of like having great video game adaptations. I feel like generally now the shows and movies coming out based off of video games are more often phenomenal than not. Like Last of Us is great. Like you said, Sonic, Arcane, all of that. Like we've had so many good shows.
Yeah, and it's not, and even Halo, like it's not bad, but it is just like okay. Like it has some good qualities to it from what I hear, but like overall, people just aren't super excited with the way they kind of tweak the story. Like it's almost like a different timeline version of Halo.
Yeah.
But it's like
I know there's complaints about like Uncharted Halo, and then like I don't know. I'm sure there was one other one, but in general, like we've gotten a lot of shows for video game adaptations that are being rated more highly than normal shows coming out.
Yeah, Pedro Pascal won for Last of Us at the SAG Awards, or yeah. But or one of them. But anyways, yeah. So we'll be talking about Fallout. So and it's funny. Someone's like, "Is this better than The Last of Us?" I'm like, they're different, and that's what's good about them. Is Tlu, it has to follow the narrative because the narrative was already so good in the game, but this is like the Fallout show is essentially just a Fallout game. You start in a vault you don't know. You have, and every character isn't a character from one of the games. They're all like, it's like, yeah, you have the Brotherhood of Steel, you have your vault dwellers, you have some ghoul and some people, but it's like it doesn't, you don't need to be like, oh well, we need to mention Liam Neeson's character, or they do mention like Shady Springs and whatnot, but they're not talking about like specific things, which is nice, and I feel like that's
Right.
an adaptation.
I mean, it's still set in the same world, which is what
Right.
everyone is asking for. It's basically a TV show in the Fallout world that captures the spirit of Fallout, but
Yeah,
they're not like retreading stories from the games, which
exactly.
that's what people wanted, and that's so far what they did is they captured they captured the feel of Fallout and the tone of Fallout really well
Yeah.
with their own story.
Yeah, it's I like it so far. I'm curious how it's going to, no spoilers for past reviews, but I'm curious how it's going to end because it feels, well, I think a lot of that is episode 5 and 6, so I'll hold off. But yeah, like I like how they do like the intertwine, there's 3 different stories going on, very Westworld. Obviously it's so weird when people call him Jonah, like Jonathan Nolan. I'm like, no one calls him John or Johnny, like Jonah. Like it
I've
must be like
never
a,
heard.
yeah.
Yeah,
His parents
never
must have
heard
called him
that.
Jonah, because everybody on an interview, if you watch it, they say Jonah. I was like, who the fuck is Jonah? And then it's like that's Jonathan Nolan. They call him like Jonah is short for Jonathan, which is so weird. Uh, it must be a British thing, uh, but yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
real good.
my first impressions of the show are that the like dark humor combined with it's a pretty gory show. Like the
Hmm.
dark humor combined with gore, combined with the Easter eggs that reference the game but aren't like overly obvious, just hit so well. Um, I love the tone of the show. The thing I kind of commented to you about so far, and I'm curious how you feel after watching all of it, but maybe we'll chat about that, next week or something. Is some of the episode cuts, they just kind of like the episodes feel like they just stop. They don't necessarily like resolve a storyline or have a cliffhanger or anything. They just kind of stop, and it makes me feel like maybe the show was written as a like 8-hour movie, and then they just like chose a point every hour to cut it up into episodes, basically. Because yeah, some of the breakpoints, like especially in the first episode, they just feel a little random or weird. Um, but when you watch it, like going from one episode to the next, half the time I'll stop in the middle of one episode because I'll not realize it moved on to the next episode and just like keep going. Um, that's a little strange, but man, the freaking scene in I think it was episode 3 or 4 when she bites off the ghoul's finger
Yeah.
and then he in
4
turn stands her up and pulls out his machete and like cuts off
cuts
her
off.
finger.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is so fucking gruesome. Like I did
Yeah.
not expect him to just be like, well, you took mine, I'm gonna take yours.
Yeah.
He just
This is
does it right there.
this is the most honest conversation we've
Yeah,
had so far.
I was just like, Jesus Christ, like no pity. And then she just takes it like a champ. There's no screaming. She just stares at him like, what the fuck are you doing? Then
Yeah,
done.
she's probably like so exhausted.
Yeah.
She's been dehydrated. Drinks the rad water, but
Yeah. Oh
it
man.
the ghoul thing where he has to have that medication, whatever it is, to prevent from going feral. Was that part of the base game? Like, I don't remember Hancock in 4 ever being like, "Hold on, I need my
No, maybe it
anti-ghoul
was in
juice."
Fallout 1 or something, but I think that was something added to the TV show that a drug is required um, to keep them from going feral.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, I'm curious because I always figured it was like just uh, a certain amount of, I don't know, like not with age, but like maybe how much like their brain, how much gray matter was damaged during like rad exposure or just any sort of other injury, and then just maybe if it was too much, then it has like increased degradation and they become feral. Because like that scene in Super Duper Mart where it's like my name's I forget the lady saying her name. It's like
Martha.
Martha. It's like Martha. Why did you say that name? But it's your Batman versus Superman there. But yeah, like they're slowly turning, or even his friend who's like slowly turning. Like I'm curious what causes that, like in the show at least.
Yeah, I mean, in the games, so there was no like yellow liquid or medicine that kept ghouls from
Mm-hmm.
going feral in the games. It was basically just certain ghouls turned feral over time, and the ghouls that like were part of society and grouped together kind of tended not to go feral, whereas the ghouls that like lived on their own in the subways or things tended to go feral. So it was more of like isolation or like losing your humanity, like being turned into a ghoul and then losing your humanity by isolating yourself turns you feral. Um, but I think that liquid so far seems like an interesting change. It makes it a bit more high stakes for traveling with a ghoul. I kind of like it.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely seems like okay, he's lasted a long time, but he needs something to do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
because when he was buried in the ground, like he had that IV bag hooked up to him, and I was curious, like, why would he need an IV bag? And it's like, oh,
yeah,
maybe that was the medicine.
yeah.
But
Um, Man, so like the set design and world design is just they nailed it so well.
mhm.
The radiation, the gulpers, like the rad monsters,
Oh
and
yeah,
the
those are
Yaogwai,
awesome.
they turned those things so creepy and they captured that so well of like animals that have been, twisted by radiation. And I'm sure I have the theory right now. The gulper, since it has like human fingers in its mouth, is probably actually an FEV variant and not actually a rad monster like the Yaogwai. Um, so hopefully they touch on that. But the design of it being like I don't know, it opens its mouth and you see like all these human fingers as like the suckers, I guess, is so cool.
Yeah, it also looked really good. I was like, damn, like it looked better than the bear. I was like, it just like when it leaps out the water, I was like, damn, that looks really good. I feel like the one spot where sometimes it's not hit or miss, but I notice it a lot, not a lot, but more than the other effects is the ghoul's nose. Like there are scenes where
Yeah,
like the black levels and the lighting of the inner piece like look fine. But sometimes there's shots where I'm like, it looks like okay, I could see that they just painted out and it doesn't quite match the lighting on the
yeah.
rest of the face. But it's not
It's
always. It's only in certain scenes. So I'm like, I'm curious too, like if that like maybe it's like a color thing because when shows do their color grading or their color correction, like they have like monitors to have like perfect studio color, and gaming monitors are often sold that
yeah.
way too. Like oh, it has perfect color. So I'm curious if it's just a difference between the way I'm watching it and if I had my colors and my black levels set properly, it would be like if I had on like cinema, if I watched on TV, like maybe it would look better, but I notice it sometimes.
I think the problem I have with that is the nose is always flat. It never it never looks hollow to me when I'm watching it. Like you know that the nose isn't there, but it always just looks flat to me.
It
Um,
it's when it's straight on, like profile shots and like 3/4 shots, I feel like tend to look really good, but sometimes it's those close ups when it's like, yeah, they have to, paint it out and do it. Like sometimes those aren't perfect.
yeah,
Uh, but
and then I w the power armor is interesting to me. So I love the way the power armor looks. I love that it's a practical effect and that it's actually a suit that they are
mhm.
wearing, not in the show. Like in
Yeah, yeah.
the actual filming is a suit that they're wearing. The weight sometimes feels off to me. Like sometimes it moves so much faster than I expect it to. Um, but I've really enjoyed the practical effects in the show. They did a really good mixture of practical and CGI.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
it's
honestly, like I'm really liking it. Oh man, and then the freaking vault design itself, they captured the tone of the vaults so perfectly. Of like, she comes from Vault 33, which is weirdly optimistic and overly cheery, and then you find out that their vault for 33 was designed as like a meritocracy where everyone, wants to do what's best, and that's how kind of like your typical utopia uh, model. But then in the recent episode, you find out that all of the oh god, I should actually make sure this isn't the start of episode 5. I think I watched the first like 10 minutes of episode 5, so hopefully this isn't a spoiler. But you start finding out all the weird shit that's going on with Vault 33 and 31 and 32, and I have so many strange theories about that right now. Like
yeah.
you probably can't talk because you actually know what's going on, but it definitely seems like 33 is the like happy, cheerful vault, and then 32 has something weird going on with the blight in it that starved them in some capacity. And then you find out that like 31 and 32 kind of like went after 31, and yeah, it raises so many questions of like why did 32 go after.
So was that at the start of 5 or the end of 4 where her brother goes back into 32?
I remember that scene, and that's why I'm like, it might have been the first 10 minutes of 30 or of episode 5, because I know watched like
Because
the first five
he takes
minutes
the
or
cousin
so.
with him as well. Like
Yeah,
they remove the rubble. Okay,
yeah. So I
so
saw that scene.
you've seen that scene. Okay.
I can't remember if that was, and apologies for spoilers. Like I can't remember if that was like,
Oh, that's why we're spoiling. We're doing it.
yeah, the start of episode 5 or not. But um, yeah. So I saw that scene, and I saw that like we know the truth. They're after the management, and it certainly makes it seem that like. And then you see that all the overseers that have been elected ever have come from 31. So clearly, like
Mm-hmm.
31 is like the head honcho vault, or like whatever 31 is doing, they wanted to be in charge always. And that's why all the
Yeah.
overseers come from 31. And then 32, it seems like they discovered maybe that like 31 was trying to like covertly be in charge. Um, but what I don't understand is like, despite all that, 33 actually seems like it turned out pretty okay. Like Vault 33 before the start of the
Mm-hmm.
show, even being run by people from 31, seemed pretty happy and fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I love that there's like you have the mystery of like, okay, there's the scientist who got away from the Enclave, uh, who has something in his neck. You don't know what it is, but it's important. And then the one lady, I forget her last name, it starts with an M, uh, is
Moldaver, something like that.
Moldova, or something like that. And I'm like, uh, you're like, okay, she has the dad. The head's important. The ghouls after the head because the bounty. Lucy's after it. The Brotherhood of Steel is after it. But then you also have the Vault 30, the Trinity Vaults mystery with her brother. Like, I love how that's going on there. So it's like, okay, what's going on here? Like, because when you find out, like, how did the door was open from the outside, and it's like
Yeah.
it was from Lucy's mom, and then like I love the mystery going on there. I'm curious how that's going to resolve, but I feel like because it's only 8 episodes, like a lot happens and you learn more stuff. But it seems like I I feel and like the only thing that will be resolved in full is perhaps the vault mystery for 33, but the head and her dad, I feel like that's going to be like the season 1 like
Yeah.
ending, like cliffhanger. I
I'm
don't think
so
that's going to resolve in full.
so like obviously what they want is the head, or with the head is like whatever was injected in his neck.
Hmm.
And thinking of like Fallout lore, I'm just kind of like, well, what is even important that could be injected like that? I mean, like it's clearly some sort of MacGuffin, but it's either like has to do with either, my theory is either water, radiation, or power. Like it's one of those three things of it will be the MacGuffin that can like purify all water on the surface. It will be the MacGuffin that can provide like infinite power on the surface, or it will be like some sort of MacGuffin that, for some reason, it makes you immune to radiation.
Yeah, or
That's
I
that's my
wonder
theory.
they can't. Yeah, because they it wouldn't be like data. Like in our world, it could be like if it was real life, it'd be like, oh, that could be like there could be data on it, and it was just put in that form so he can hide it within his neck.
Yeah,
Because you come with like a micro SD card underneath your fingernail or something. But it's probably not that in the Fallout world. But yeah, I'm curious. Like, is it going to be something similar to, like you said, the water purification? Like, is it going to be like that from 3?
that's kind of
Um,
why I was like, the water seems weird because three also did start with three also started with well, didn't start with three ended with the whole conflict over water purification and radiation, and
mhm.
that was like the entire story. And then both games started with your dad disappearing. So if it's the water purification thing, then it goes pretty similar to three. Um, the Brotherhood of Steel wanting it makes me think like maybe power, or it's like a bomb of some sort, like a super super tiny nuke, which would be kind of funny if it was just carrying around a nuke the entire time. Um, but like in terms of like Fallout lore and world building, I feel like the conflicts are always based around resources or radiation. Like that's kind of what it always is.
Yeah, because and plus it's like the brother, like even the one guy's like the Brotherhood still just wants like they collect random crap. Like they don't even necessarily care. They just want control of any old world tech. And if it's something
Yeah.
from the Enclave, then they assume it has to be important. Doesn't matter what it is. But
Yep.
yeah. And then like in the beginning, I was kind of unsure if Maximus like put that blade in the boot. I'm like, it feels like they're trying to paint it like in I'm trying to think like tropes. I'm like, typically they paint it like he did it secretly, but I was like, it feels like it's also not that. But then the way he treated Titus, I was like,
I definitely feel like he did now.
yeah, now I'm feeling like he did. And I'm like, and then I don't know if that happens in. Oh no, that's in episode 5.
It's the very start of episode 5. He meets Lucy and she saves him.
Oh, okay. So he already saw the scene then where he steps on the one dude's foot, his new squire. Yeah,
that
yeah.
happens at the end of. Oh God, yeah, I can't remember if he steps on him at the end of 4 or the start of 5, but like,
yeah,
it's
at nighttime and he's stuck in a suit.
I saw the scene where he confesses to that dude after branding him. I think that's the end of episode 4 where he brands him, and then the guy freaks out and then like locks him in the suit, which. God, that would be a dark way to go. And I was wondering about that myself, of how the fuck you got out of the power armor like on your own, because in the games you have like a valve on the back of the power armor, which they have in this. But I was definitely like, how the hell do you get out on your own, or do you have a squire and that's why you need help getting out? But this kind of answered it. Of if you have the fusion core, you can get out. If you don't have the fusion core, you're fucked.
Yeah, it's all manual. But I'm like, I think in the game though they just do like, because you can like if you run out of power, it's just like you just hot swap the. I think you can still get out, because obviously that would be bad from a player perspective. But from a real life, it makes sense. Like if the armor was real, it would have to be manually opened from the outside. But yeah, that was I was like, man, that would suck.
Dude, it would suck so bad. Oh man, I need to watch more of this, because I feel like there's not much I can discuss right now, just because nothing's been revealed yet. But like I said, the tone of the show is just spot on. It is perfect for Fallout.
Yeah, there's some stuff that gets revealed for some characters. I won't say like who or what, but like it's like there's some developments in the next 2 episodes. But it still feels like we might get some answers for certain storylines. But I think the only one that'll get resolved is perhaps the truth behind 31, 32, 33, and then maybe we get some, like she finds her dad or something. I don't know, but it's like, I'm curious how it's going to, because it feels like I don't think it got confirmed for a season 2.
God, I hope it gets
beforehand. I thought I might show season 2.
The only mystery, so I would love to find out before the end of the season why the ghoul hates Vault Tech so much. So obviously, like, something. I mean, it seems pretty obvious that something happened with him and his family in Vault Tech, and in episode 4 he has the comments of like, oh, so these suits block radiation, and the like Vault Tech executive is like, yeah, sure. So I'm wondering if either like the Vault Tech suits, they lied and he thought they would block radiation, and like his wife and daughter turned into ghouls or something, or died. Or my other running theory is that he thought he'd be allowed inside of a vault and then wasn't allowed inside of a vault. But I hope we get an answer to that.
There's you get a lot of that. I think like a huge chunk of episode 6 is that storyline. Cool. So yeah.
And then I'd like to find out at least what the MacGuffin is, like what it does. I don't care about a resolution to it, but at least finding out what it does would be fun. And then maybe just like I could see the season ending with like a scene of the dad working on something to show that he's alive. Maybe not resolving his storyline, but like some confirmation of whether or not he's alive or dead would be cool.
Yeah, I have a big. Again, I can't talk about it all. I have like one big, like there's a big question I have asked like at the end of 6. I'm like, oh man, that's why I was like, I told when you're like, hey, you want to stay and watch it? I was like, I can't. I need to watch the next 2 because it's like I got more info now. But
do I need
it's funny.
Cruise through the game so I can catch up?
There you go. Or, but the episodes, yeah, it's funny. Like someone was saying, like how the ghoul is kind of like the Man in Black of the show, and it does kind of. He's not like as evil as the Man in Black, but I do like that he has his own theme. Like that, I'm not going to imitate it on the show, but like I love that bit. Like when he first gets dug up, and they're like, it's not it's not what they're doing, it's where they're going, to California. And it's like, like that music and stuff. And like he has his theme. I love when like a character has a theme. Because it pops up so often with the ghoul. It's nice to have just like that motif sometimes. It's good. But yeah, I like how much they're giving. They go into that backstory because there's some really interesting stuff from a world perspective and that character, and just anyways, I'll wait till you're done with 6, but
Yeah.
there's some interesting conversations.
All things considered, just loving the show. It was really, really fun.
It's real good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching. I'll probably watch the other 2 episodes today. At some point, I got to do some cooking after this. But anyways, all right, let's get Zaya back in here and talk about what we've been playing. Okay, Zaya, okay, you're good. Okay, hopefully Zaya's there at the desk, not up and around dealing with some.
It's okay. I have nothing to say. I haven't been playing anything.
I'm
some
back.
Francis PS. Okay, Zaya's back. All right, you said you haven't been playing anything, Isley?
No, I've just been watching Fallout and watching TV shows. I can talk a lot about movies and TV I've watched, but not games.
Yeah. All right. Well, then we'll go ahead and jump in when we're playing. We'll just go straight to Zaya. I saw you on 14. Have you been going back trying to do any more stuff, that side content? I know you said you wanted to do the different dates at Gold Saucer.
I haven't done that yet. I need to get back into 16 actually because I forgot the DLC was coming out. But I might do the Gold Saucer stuff today if I don't have anything else to do, which I probably do, but I don't know if I want to do it. So I'll go ahead and probably do that. But yeah, I've been playing 14 a little bit. I was finishing some relics on my main, and then I was playing through the MSQ on my alt just for funsies. Mostly because they had the 14-hour like anniversary stream with the live letter and everything, and then the benchmark came out, so it's kind of like I'm all excited for it. So I've just been kind of sitting in there enjoying that. But other than that, still playing Honkai Star Rail like every day. Other than that, not really much else.
Yeah, I haven't made much progress in Rebirth. I had stopped the other day, like before you and I had watched the first episode of Fallout. I was on the Shinra 8, the boat that crosses to Costa del Sol, and I was in like the tournament on like the semifinals. I was like I had to beat Chadley. I was like, I gotta finish this real quick, and then I finished that later. I did the full tournament, and that's I stopped it after that. Man, I feel like you don't get enough cards. Like I was like, oh, there's not really that many, and maybe it's just because I didn't explore and really run around the open world segments before that point. Like even in the first area and the second outside Junon, to be like because when I came across someone who's like, oh, I'll play the game with you, I'd play them, and get the card or whatever. But I feel like they don't give you a ton of new cards. And so like I'm stuck with what I've got, and a lot of them are like low levels. So when I'm fighting the final, not the final, but like the extra exhibition match, but like the final tournament person, even Chadley, I'm like, I don't like I can't view the card and see what they play and how it works exactly, like to see the grid pattern for how the card plays. Like it says like, oh, when they come into play, they give power to ally cards or whatever, blah, blah. But like, it doesn't show me how it goes. So I run into situations where like I play a card, like typically there's like one pretty basic way to play. It's kind of like tic-tac-toe. Like, okay, you get that, you kind of go top lane, bottom lane, whatever, get to the middle. Then when they try to take that middle card, then you play a card in that top, middle, bottom mode to overtake what they did. Now they can't progress in that lane anymore, yada, yada. Pretty basic. But I'm like, okay, the problem I had with the final fight was like all the cards they had were super strong, and like all my cards were pretty basic. And I was like, I just couldn't, even though I could win the number of cards in any given lane, I wouldn't have enough points. And so I was like, okay, at one point I was like, screw it. I'm just going to make like a beast deck, like all my beast cards. And they even have one that you could do as like if you have all these cards, we'll build this themed beast deck. But I was like, I'm missing a couple cards. And when I got on the boat, it's like, oh, we have a vendor. You can buy more cards. It's like, oh, cool. And I went there. It's like they only had one booster pack, and because I already had bought the other 3. I'm like, really? There's no more cards I can get right now? I feel like I should have more to be able to, not have to worry about strategy for each of these because it feels like there's just one basic way to win. Because then I'll do that strategy, and it's like, oh, they played this card that affects this card that's in a bottom left diagonal, and I'm like, damn it, I didn't. Or I kept making the fucking mistake where like I'm winning, and then I play a freaking grenadier, and like he throws out the grenade, and it kills the card because I need to lower the damage of this lane, or like the power of this lane, because I'm like one shy. I'm like, oh, I'll play this grenadier, but then he destroys that card, but I didn't. So now that slot becomes available, but the slot next to it on my end is also available because I didn't play anything there yet. Like I did my order of operation wrong. I should have played a card first on my slot and then the grenadier, but I played the grenadier first by mistake. It gives them that slot. They play it. They overtake my slot. And I'm like, damn it. And I'm like, now I just have to fucking restart and hope I get the good draw again. And I'd get so mad. I did it like 3 times in that final fight. I'm like, why do I keep just doing this? Like I keep playing. I'm like, I keep doing it out of order. I'm like, just play it in order, because I was getting so frustrated. But yeah, I'm like, I feel like I should have better cards by now.
Yeah, it really, I mean, you can, the same way that I did, sounds like you just brute force your way through it by restarting the matches and everything. So it's pretty lenient in that sense. But like, if you don't find all of the booster pack vendors, if you don't play all of the people that you can play on the way up and win all of those cards, it's kind of like you're basically doing this tournament with the most basic deck that you can do. So you just kind of have to brute force your way through it. But
yeah, because like there's so many times like I can easily get the majority of cards, but it's just the problem is all my cards are weak ass, and it's like, and they have like weird angled cards. Like, come on, man.
It becomes a more difficult puzzle than it's probably meant to be. But yeah, it's just, you just can see almost immediately that you're not going to win this match, so you just restart and you kind of just brute force your way through it.
I'm like, why did we get rid of Fort Condor? Are you gonna like get a new mini game in the third one, like, and then get rid of Queen's Blood? And I'm like, I liked Fort Condor. Like, why did you get rid of it? But I guess they only play it Midgar. But anyway, so yeah, I haven't made too much progress in there. And then I've just been playing Last Train Home. I think I'm on chapter 3, maybe 4. The problem I have in that game is like I don't know, since it's my first run. I didn't watch like 5 tips for Last Train Home. Is that I got to a point in the story where like I did this mission and I had to rescue some legionnaires, but they're like, all right, they can take them with you. Come with us if we're gonna leave the city. But I didn't upgrade any of my train cars for increased capacity, so I had like 5 soldiers I can get, but I only had room for 3 of them. I'm like, okay, I screwed myself up there because I didn't upgrade any of my carts. So then, like, the first thing I did once I moved to the next chapter is like, okay, upgrade carts so I have better capacity. But then you can find these vendors in these towns where you can buy more train cars. And the first one I bought, I was like, okay, I'll buy a research car because I had enough money. They cost a lot, but I had enough because I don't really buy much from the vendors. And I was like, that'll be good because then I can research things for like better weapons. I can craft ammo if I need to, yada yada. But then the next time I got to a station where I can buy something, I was like, I would love to get a medic car, because like the first train you have at the start of the game has a medic car on it, and like that's really good to help, obviously heal up your soldiers if they get injured in the field. And I was like, but the medic car is like 14,000 gold or whatever the currency is, and I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to afford this? Like, should I have not purchased the research car in the earlier chapter? Is it better to, like, is the strategy to sell a lot of my guns, but keep enough for at least 8 people? Because a lot of the missions, like the most difficult missions you have to go on, require like 8 soldiers. And then any expedition you do, like to go run off to like a forest to collect resources, or a lake, or rummage a house, it's like you need at least 3 people. And you can assign, as people level up, you can give them new roles. So like someone starts as a rifleman, you can upgrade them to be like, oh, they could be a medic, or they could be a machine gunner, or they could be a grenadier, and you can give them, that unlocks the ability to give them different weapons. So it's like, I don't have to have, I could sell like a couple extra of these rifles, make them just use the LMG or something. But so I don't know if like, is that the meta? Like, I'm not sure. Like, is it better to, oh, I know I don't need, I'll get enough coal from, running around researching stuff or, rummaging through places and on missions, that I can sell some of my coal to a merchant. Like, I'm curious how the economy works, especially in harder difficulties. I'm like, man, I don't understand. This shit's so expensive. I'm like, how would people upgrade their carts? Or is it like maybe they sell off one of their passenger cars and like they only run with like a lean amount of soldiers? But story wise, like you want to save the soldiers, so you need more stuff. I guess maybe if you upgraded just one passenger car like to max, and it's like, okay, now that's how you do it. Like you just have the max, then you sell off that extra train car, and then that allows you to be able to buy the another one to tag on there. But yeah, I'm not sure how
There's
that
some
works there.
kind
So
of
that,
like meta that you're missing or something that gets you a bunch of money to upgrade.
yeah, like I guess I could maybe if there's like an end game thing where it's like I can see like, oh, how many, like if I ended with a bunch of extra resources, I know like, oh, I could have. That's like when last night when I was playing, or yesterday, I was like, oh, I have a bunch of metal and stuff, and it's like I'm just gonna spend a ton of upgrades on, because you can only upgrade when your train's stopped. But once you get into chapter 2, the Red Army's like actively hunting you down, and there's like a meter that fills up as your train is stationary. So like if you send people out on expeditions, like that meter fills up. So you want to be careful and always be on the move. But yeah, so like I was like, all right, I'll upgrade my engine so it consumes less fuel. It takes because all your carts like get wear and tear as you travel along. It like reduces wear and tear, increases the this and that, yada yada. But and I do like some of the systemic stuff where it's like there's each of your soldiers have like little traits, and one of them is like a guy that has like I think it's vengeful. So like that's one of the traits he has. He's very hot headed if there's like any reds around or whatever, and like he'll add like color commentary when you're in certain cutscenes if they're in the squad, when you go to like into a town or something and the Red Army's there. But there's these little moments where like they're like, oh, Captain, there's a blockage ahead. Do we want to ram through it or not risk taking the damage of the cart? And like the trade off there is you can ram through it and you take damage, but you don't have to stop, or you can stop, clear the track. That takes time, but you also get wood out of it. So it's like, okay, but it also like it lowers morale a bit when you stop for whatever reason. That's easy to get back up. But I had one instance where I did like 2 of those stoppages early in my playthrough. And I got to the third one. I was like, I'm like usual. I want the wood, so I'm going to stop. But because I had the guy in my party who was vengeful, he knew that the Reds like to booby trap stuff. So he inspected the roadblock and found that there was like a grenade in there as a trap, and he disarmed the grenade. We got it at an inventory, then we cleared it. So I'm like, I'm curious, like, okay, if we had rammed it, I assumed the grenade would have done extra damage because it would have gone off, perhaps, and then that would have been like a really bad thing to like just run through it. So I'm curious how that goes. And then I had like someone join my party, some woman from a squad, but she was like, they seem friendly, but I couldn't tell if they're lying, but I let them join. And then like later I found like this old hut, and there's just like this old woman cooking stuff. But I don't know if she's friendly, so I'm kind of like, I'm not gonna. We're just gonna go back to the train. I don't eat because I'm worried you might have poisoned the food or something. But
no soup for me, thank you.
yeah, I'm good. I'm out of here. But yeah, there's some fun story stuff. Side missions that you can do that are they're fun. And I like, it was funny in one of the reviews, someone said like, oh, the problem I have is like you might like there's a shroud as you run around like a city, and it's you can see it based on the vision of the squad as you move through and yada yada. It's like, and one of the things in the reviewer said like, oh, it can be kind of tough sometimes when you turn the corner and you don't realize there's like a bunch of soldiers there or like a machine gun or something like this. But I'm like, but the recon class has like these binoculars, and they can do this like survey an area pretty far away. So like anytime I'm gonna go into like a big spot, I just click on the recon guy, have him look at the area I'm going to, and be like, oh, are there soldiers or are there no soldiers? Like I'm doing reconnaissance. Like why is the reviewer not doing reconnaissance? Like why would that be a complaint? Like yeah, that's the trade-off of not doing that, is like you could run into some bad shit. But and it's fun to like stealth around it, because like unlike other games with stealth, like typical FPS or third person games, it's like, you could kill someone with stealth like right next to another person, they won't notice. But in this game, it's like if people are in a pretty decent proximity of someone that you're like stealth killing, they'll hear it. So like, and you can go like a tactical view. So I had this one, there's like 6 soldiers. I'm like, okay, well, 3 of them I can easily sneak up on. So like went into tactical view, queued up 3 of my guys to take out 3 of the other dudes, and then I let it all happen at once. And then of course that alerts the other guys to the noise. So I quickly make them all come back around the side of the building, and then we just easily take them out by having some other folks like readied up. But it's the tactical side of it's fun, especially if like, okay, I'm gonna go attack this area. You can set up like an LMG to like put their bipod up on like a certain area, and they have like a cone of vision, and they'll just have increased accuracy since they're mounted. They can't move. You have to like make them undo it, and it takes like time to get out of position. But like it's just these fun little tactical things you can do. And yeah, it's a fun game. Again, I'm worried that, because I noticed one of the upgrades you can do is like, increased insulation in the carts. It consumes a little more coal to keep it warm, but you can kind of toggle off and on. I'm like, okay, this is very Frostpunk. So now I'm concerned that at some point we're going to get further into Russia, and it's going to be cold, and maybe this is going to be where the difficulty like spikes. I don't know how many chapters are in the game, and I'm worried I'm not going to. I might not make it, because I'm doing fine so far. Like everyone's doing well. I wish I had a medical cart to be able to heal people faster, but yeah, it's going all right. And then I did pick up a bunch of games on Steam sale. Like I said, I picked up Viewfinder. I was going to play it after the BAFTAs, because that had won some awards. I was like, oh, maybe I'll play some of that, because it's also a short game. Play that, but I picked up that. I also picked up what was the other one? The Thaumaturge. I picked that up because that was on sale.
Oh, that game got great reviews.
Yeah, it's like I said, that's the same. That's that team. They've been kicking out like a bunch of good stuff. I'm like, damn, how these guys have like, all this content, and just I don't understand how they're kicking out so much stuff. Because it's from 11 series. Like they're doing like Frostpunk 2 comes out soon, and I'm like, hey, you guys doing too much, man. But well, the developer's Fool's Theory. But what else has Fool's Theory done? I'm curious. Do you have any other games on Steam here? Nah, I can only see 7 the Enhanced Edition. But yeah, I picked that up. And then I heard someone talking about on a podcast, like they had gone back and they were replaying Middle Earth: Shadow of War, because they had only played a little bit back when it originally came out, and it's like playable on the Steam Deck, so like going back and replaying it, and they're having like just a ton of fun. And I'm like, man, I never finished Shadow of Mordor, and I enjoyed what I was playing, but I feel like when that came out, because I think that was 2014 when Shadow of Mordor came out.
Oh my god, I don't even remember. A while ago.
It's been too long. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it was Q4. It was end of September 2014, and I'm like,
oh my god,
that was, PS4 was out for a year, but I was like, I must have just not. I'm curious, because then you know what? It probably was Fantasy 14 PS4 edition. I think the PS4 version, it came out in Q4 as well, and maybe I bounced off it that year, because it wasn't 2013. I don't think it immediately came out on, right?
Well, when A Realm Reborn came out, it was originally on PS3.
Yeah, and I played it a little bit, but then I stopped because I'm like, okay, they're going to bring it on FF14 wiki. Maybe the wiki will... No, I want the actual Wikipedia, not the fan one. Thank you. April. Wow, I thought it came out earlier, because yeah, it came out in August 2013. I played it on PS3, and then when PS4 came out, I was playing PS4. I stopped playing 14. Really, it didn't come out until April 2014. Huh. Maybe so. It must have been like maybe there was some more content or something that came out later that year, or something happened. I remember I did play a lot of 14. But anyways, the point of the story is I had dropped off Shadow of Mordor. And I noticed, and he was talking about War. I was like, I never played War because I didn't finish Mordor. And I was like, and I did enjoy those games. And I'm like, I feel like that could be a good way to go back into a third-person game that has some combat that I like.
Since I'm not, that's a great one to go back to.
Since I'm not big on Rebirth, and I just looked on Steam, and like both games are in like a Mordor bundle for like $6. It was like an extreme discount, and I was like, screw it, I'll just get them on Steam. and then I'll be able to play them at 60, yada yada.
Mhm.
So at some point, I'm going to just play both Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, because there's like not a lot coming out the rest of this year. Like, because I am interested in playing Rise of the Ronin, but probably won't get that anytime soon. Like, if it had scored like extremely high, I'd be like, okay, let's jump right on it. But like, I probably won't play that. I had said how I had the urge suddenly to play Liza P when I
Oh
was not
yeah.
interested in playing that at all. Again, I think it's because I want some good combat
Mhm.
from playing Rebirth. And I'm like, I could play Liza P. I could go for a Souls like combat right now. Maybe I'll get that at some point. But yeah, so I'll probably, I don't know when I'll get to those because I want to finish my first run of Last Train Home. I'll probably play Viewfinder because it's so short. And then yeah, we'll see from there. But yeah, looking forward to that. But yeah, other than that, not a whole lot. Just binging the Fallout show. So, all right. Did I have any? Let me double check. Make sure if I think I took some notes. Double check. I know there was something that sometimes I don't take notes and stuff. I've talked about this before, but like, oh, I'll remember to talk about this. Like, even if it's stuff I want to see before we start recording, I'm like, oh, I want to comment on this thing, and then I just totally forget to do it. God damn it. But yeah, I so I was complaining in Discord, but like, I don't get why there's so many. His headset's dying. Why there are 27 and 28-inch monitors? I don't understand because I had to get another monitor and it was just a pain in the ass. I ended up just getting a 27, but it's like I don't think
Oh,
it's
they're
that
not
much.
going to match now. It's going to be the worst thing in the
I
world.
don't keep my monitors side by side. If I did, I would have just bought the same monitor. Like the way I have it set up, I don't like. Even at work, I have my monitors. I have dual monitors and they have them like side by side, but I always position them in such a way that I sit and I look straight at my main one, and then I just have the other one kind of the side. Like ideally I would have I set them as if I had 3 monitors basically. Like I don't like having to look at the creases in the middle. It's just weird to sit that way. But anyway, so I got and it feels like they're almost exact. I think it's because maybe the bezel on the one. I don't know, but they feel like they're both. I mean, it's not technically a full 28. It's just they call it, but whatever. But it's because it's a diagonal. It's not like it's 28, vertical and horizontal. It's not that different. But it was just so annoying. I'd be like, why are there not that many? And I think it comes down to resolution. I feel like it must be like the QHD panels in manufacturing. Just 27 is like a better division than 28. Like I assume 28 must be like, oh, we can only get 28 if we do a bunch of 32s, and the extra, after we cut that out, like with TVs, the extra panel space we have is only enough for like a 28, and that's why they do it. Or because the 4K panel, like 4K monitors, a lot of them are 28. It's like 28, 32, but then QHD is just like 27, bruh. I'm like, why? Why do you do 27, 28, man? But so it just must come down to the way they cut the panels. But anyway, that was just annoying. And then I have so many USB dongles and cords and whatnot for random shit that takes cords to charge that I bought like a little USB hub that was like super cheap off Amazon, and I just cut the cord and I have it, and I want to put like some 3M tape on the back of it and like put it underneath my desk and just plug in all my extra cords and dongles into that so they're organized instead of just like toss them in a drawer. Because I'm like, I gotta keep track of it. I hate when I'm looking for like, hey, where's that cord? Oh, I can't find it. And it's like I gotta look for it. It's like now I have my headset dongle for my work headset that I use, if I'm working when I'm working from home, and I have like all these other cords that I need. They're all plugged in. And I know where they're at. I gotta put that.
You
hub
mean you
somewhere.
don't just throw all of your cables and dongles in a drawer and go, that's a future me problem for when I need that thing?
No, because I use them as a ring light. When I
That's
at my old
exactly
place.
what I do.
Yeah.
And I always think, oh, I'll get around to doing really great cord management someday, and then like 4 years will go by, and the drawer's just bigger.
Yeah, it's because it's like every time you buy something, it always comes with a fucking cable. It's like, well, if it's USB-C, I'll just charge it with the other one I've got, But like at my old place, I had like on the next to the wall by my couch, I had a metal pegboards up, which I used to have my airsoft guns on them. But then I took this off and I had a bunch of like tools and stuff. And keep them there. It's like, okay, in case I need these. And I had like a little hook on the bottom that I would just drape over the long ass USB cords on there. It's like, oh, if I ever need the PS4 cord, or if for the kid needs to charge something, it's here. My headset cables here if I got to plug it in or something. I would hang my headphones on the hook, but like I would just hang all the USB cables on that and just keep them there so I can see them. But I didn't put those up in my house or in my new place. So I'm like, I do have like a little drawer full of extra cables and stuff that I don't actively use, but I use these because one of them like charges one of my earbud cases. Another one's like a super short USB-C. I don't know why. I'm like, what the fuck came with this? But I'm like, because it's USB-C. I'm like, well, this is still useful.
Mm-hmm.
And like, here and like, this one I can use to charge my work headset and yada yada. And anyways, it's just like all these fucking cables, man. So many of them.
I have a very tiny, well, relatively tiny USB-C to USB-C cable that's normally useless, but my desk happens to have a USB-C port, so I plugged it into there and I just charge everything off of that. And then all my other cables I put in a drawer.
The PS5 came with like a ridiculously short, I think it was USB to USB-C, but like it's like 2 feet long.
Yeah, I never had an issue with that because I was so close. But yeah, it is kind of compared, especially like the PS4 and PS3 cables.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just because it probably costs more because it was USB-C and not USB A or whatever, the micro mini. Yeah, fucking cables, man. But yeah, it's just too many cables. Everything comes with something. Got to deal with that shit. But yeah, I my new monitor, it's fine. It's nice having it bigger because the work one I was using was only 24, and then being able to have it as a higher resolution, even though it's only 1440p, it's like it works great. The problem is now is like, okay, I got to try to color match between the two.
Ooh, see, that's why I get to the same monitor.
Luckily, I got it like pretty good. I was worried, it's like, oh, it's not gonna be perfect. I do have to do a little bit of tweaks, but right now it doesn't matter because typically I never have, because I have the same wallpaper. Obviously, I don't have different wallpapers on each monitor, but it's like easy way to check that. But I got it there luckily pretty quick. The only thing I didn't notice it was on is like LG has this like it had auto switch input on, and so what would happen was my PC would go to sleep if I got up, go do something, and then I come back and I'd like jiggle the mouse. My main monitor would turn on, but the second monitor didn't. It would stay on the other input even though there's no signal, and I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? Like, so I went into the settings and turned off, and it's also weird. Like because a gaming monitor, I guess, like it has like oops, I'm gotta get out of the. Oh, I can't get out of the settings now. I gotta use the knob. But like it has like different, what kind of mode do you want? It's like, oh, I got gamer mode, 1, 2, FPS, RTS, vivid, reader, all these other ones. But for some reason, like you can't adjust all the picture settings and some of the other like picture mode or modes. And I'm like, why? It's like the only ones you can really adjust, like if you put it on gamer 1 and gamer 2, because it's a gaming monitor. Technically not just like a standard workflow for you can use it for obviously for business shit, but because it's designed for gamers, like this I had to use the settings. I do like that the dongle's on the bottom, at least like the dongle on my Gigabit is like in the back right. I'm used to it now, but it is kind of annoying to get to, especially if you were to have monitors side by side. Good luck, but at least with no gap in them. But anyways, but yeah, it's a fine. But I'm stuck in the situation now. I got to keep the fucking box in case something goes wrong. I got like a lemon. I'm like, oh, I gotta go return or some shit. Better keep
you
the
don't
box.
keep your boxes for literally everything either? You don't have like a stack of boxes in a closet somewhere?
I used to. I had like my PS4 boxes, and then
I finally got rid of my Switch box.
Nice.
I was like, why do I even have this? And then I pulled it out and I'm like, oh, I have the docking station in here. And the entire time I've owned the Switch, I have never docked it once. Like, I just forgot that it could have a docking station.
This is a handheld console, right?
Yep. It's the main way I bought it and use it. So I just like, I was like, why am I keeping this box? And I opened it up and I'm like, oh, okay, this is why.
Yep.
I kept both the boxes for both of my Switches, but we gave the other one, the old one, away. So we gave that box away. But I have the box mainly because, I bought the Animal Crossing one. So it's got the little animal. I got to put it up in my display case. But I still have all of we have my original PS4 box, but that's because the PS4 is in it. We had the box for the God of War one. I don't know if we have the PS5 box. We might have gotten rid of that one. That one was a little too big. But I also have all the boxes to all my figures. They're just kind of like strewn about in places wherever I can put them. I should get rid of boxes.
Yeah, this is very big, like you have a problem vibes for both of us.
I used to keep in case like I think I still have my ring light box in case like I want to I don't know in the future like I can sell it online. At least I have a good like it's such a unique box to put the ring light in. I'm like, okay, I don't have to worry about a bunch of BS. But like with the consoles, I'm like, if I move, I'll just deal with it easy. Just put them in a box. Like it was fine. I didn't have to worry about crazy stuff because I'm the one moving it. Like I'm gonna be fine with it. But yeah, I usually keep boxes for a bit, and then I'm like, all right, I don't need this anymore. It's fine. Yeah, the worst part is
watch still. Why do I keep boxes?
Yeah, the one thing I wish or I did keep was like so when talked about the keyboard stuff last episode and yada yada. So I have to return the other one to Amazon, but I don't have the original box that came in. But I have the box that Best Buy brought my first Black Widow when that got delivered because I had them just do a delivery instead of go pick up. But that box is like pretty big for a keyboard. I don't know why. So I'm like, so I'm like, great. I have to return this to UPS, but this box is a little big, so I got to wait until I have enough stuff to put in there to pad it, so it actually stays still. And I finally got enough because I got like a delivery and stuff from Amazon. And they had like some bubble packaging in there, and I was like, okay, this is enough. I can close this box and I can drop it off at UPS now. But yeah, I was like, that was the one instance I'm like, I should have kept the other box. But
see,
that's the only time. But again, that just goes back to I should have done that. Like I kept the keyboard box, I just didn't keep the shipping box.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the only thing. It was like, okay, like I still have my new keyboard box right down here, but I'm like, because it's working, I'm like, I'll probably just toss it out. I'm not gonna. There's no issues with it, and it's totally fine. So I'm good there. But anyways, all right. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Went on for quite a bit. Had a nice conversation about Fallout, and I'm sure next week we'll probably just talk about finish up our Fallout discussion, the whole series, and review it. But all right. Well, thank you for all for tuning in, listening. Thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Sire, for joining.
Yep.
And we'll see you all next time.
Later.
Bye.